A Most Wanted Man is a thriller espionage novel by John le Carré, copyright published in September 2008 by Hodder Stoughton in the United Kingdom and in October 2008 by Scribner in the United States. A young Chechen ex-prisoner arrives illegally in Germany, practically uneducated and destitute, but with a claim to a fortune held in a private bank. This novel, set in Hamburg where the author was once a British agent and consul, is based on the contemporary themes of the international war on terror, money laundering, and the conflicting interests of different officers and agents and laymen who were affected. The novel provides an extended, if oblique, critique of the American policy under President George W. Bush of extraordinary rendition. The novel's events and characters were inspired by the real-life story of Murat Kurnaz, a Turkish citizen and legal resident of Germany who, after being arrested in Pakistan in 2001, was detained and claims to have been tortured in American military detention camps, first at Kandahar in Afghanistan and then at Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, before eventually being released in 2006. Plot summary: a young Turkish boxing champion in Hamburg notices he is being shadowed by a tall gaunt young man in a black coat, who turns up on his doorstep and demands hospitality. Somewhat suspiciously, they allow Issa to stay in the attic as he announces his desire to become a doctor. He contacts a human rights organization whose attractive young bike-riding lawyer, Annabelle Richter, takes his case to a British bank in the city. She bases her case to the owner, Tommy Brew, on a mysterious Lipizzaner fund established by his father and held by the bank. When Brew meets Issa, he claims he is the son of a Russian, Colonel Karpov, who put his money in the fund, but after Brew's grilling, he refuses to claim his inheritance. Brew, who by this time is falling under Annabelle's spell, gives her a large personal check to cover expenses. Brew receives visits from British intelligence who tell him that they had set up the bank accounts, which received payoffs and money from mafia sources. They ask him to alert them when Issa shows up. A German intelligence agent, Bachmann, who visits Annabelle is homing in on a suspicious Islamist terrorist with Chechen connections, arrested entering Sweden from Turkey in a container, who has escaped custody and found his way to Germany. Annabelle has moved Issa from the Turkish family to a new apartment she has recently bought but not occupied, but her evasive tactics seem suspicious to the followers. She is later apprehended in the street, interrogated by Bachmann, and a woman in the intelligence service is assigned to persuade Annabelle to cooperate with them. Eventually she agrees on the basis that her client will be given a German passport and be allowed to stay. They suggest to Annabelle that Issa might be persuaded to give the money to an Islamic philanthropist called Abdullah who will give the money to charitable causes, which will include his medical training. The intelligence services are trying to link Abdullah to funding terrorism. Issa remains in Annabelle's apartment whilst she tries to persuade him. Meanwhile, the British agents get a promise of cooperation from Brew ahead of a meeting of the intelligence services. At the meeting of the Joint Committee of German Authorities, which is a representative of British intelligence, there are also two CIA operatives present as observers. The case against Signpost, as Abdullah is referred to, is discussed. While his religion and most of the donations are deemed legitimate, attention focuses on a small transport company which seems to siphon off a small part of the shipments of food he organizes, to be allegedly sold to aid terrorists. They discuss the fate of Issa and agree that they should keep the promises given to his lawyer. But the handover at the bank will be monitored by a large number of police and others on the assumption that he will be armed. On the appointed day, Annabelle and Issa meet Brew at the bank and Issa produces the key to the safe deposit box which contains the crucial documents. They complete the handover and Abdullah arrives to receive the money which is transmitted directly to the organizations involved, including the suspect transport company. The spies who have bugged the scene have all the evidence they need, and as the group leaves, Bachmann approaches them disguised as a taxi driver to apprehend Abdullah. At this point a group of masked men tumble out of a van which collides with the taxi, smashing Bachmann's arm and vanish with both Abdullah and Issa. Justice has been rendered, man. American justice, says Newton, one of the American spooks who has appeared. Have you never heard of extraordinary rendition? I was asking about Issa, Bachmann said. Issa was a man, Newton retorted. Now Seriously Angry. Film treatments. A 9-minute short film detailing the themes of the book was released on July 22, 2008, produced by Simon Channing Williams, producer of the film version of Le Carré copyright's 19th novel, The Constant Gardener. In June 2011, a feature film based on the book was announced in Germany, with Anton Corbijn as director. Australian screenwriter Andrew Bovell was to adapt the novel for the screen, according to the first publicity. A film was granted $1.3 million in production subsidies from the city's regional film board, the FFHSH Hamburg Schleswig-Holstein, and the city was the primary production location. Mort Greniert's recently launched Hamburg and Berlin-based amusement park films produced the film. A film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival on January 19, 2014, before release in the United States on July 25, and the United Kingdom on September 5. References. External links, trailer for the book. Reviews The Independent, The New York Times, The Sunday Times, The Spectator, The Telegraph, The New York Review of Books.